Welcome back to Beyond the Bot, coming to you from Automate 2025. I'm excited to be joined by Melonee, the Chief Product Officer of Agility, who makes these awesome humanoids that you can see behind me. And we're excited to learn a lot more about what you guys have going on.
Yeah, of course. So at Agility Robotics, we make robots that move material for manufacturers and logistics operators. And so one of the things that you might see is Digit, our main product, the robot that you see behind us, moving totes or other things into machinery and out of machinery. So we can palletize, depalletize, put stuff onto conveyor, take stuff off of conveyor, put stuff onto AMRs like you see behind us, etc. Making sure that we're able to slot in wherever people need us as flexible automation and solve kind of the challenges that people have today in connecting their different islands of automation.
So, before we dive into kind of the specifics of the demo that we have going on behind us, just a couple of general questions about what you guys are seeing in the industry, because you do have so many deployments. You kind of have this unique vantage point. What are some of the trends that excite you the most that you're seeing in automation overall?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm excited about is all of these different types of automation are becoming more connected together, and they're working better synergistically together. I think that if you had asked people 10 or 15 years ago how the automation industry was going to play out, they would imagine like a single big black box where someone was going to come in and all of the problems were going to be solved by one vendor. But that's not the case. We're seeing lots of different vendors solving the problems and making the overall warehouse efficient while allowing customers to pick and choose what technology they're ready for at what time.
Wow, that's interesting. And we're seeing obviously here at Automate, we see all the latest and greatest in technological advancements, and so we know that there's been this huge uptick in innovation and what's possible with automation. But at the same time, obviously, a quote that I like is, "The future's here; it's just not evenly distributed." And so we're not always seeing that on the actual application and adoption side. What do you think are some of the kind of roadblocks keeping folks from adopting some of the latest and greatest in technology?
Yeah, I would say that some of the roadblocks for adopting this technology is just its overall reliability. So if you look at it, one of the big challenges is you can always make really cool demos that work in well-contained or specified, I guess, situations. That's how demos are, or in a lab. You don't have all the mess of the real world, and so they look really good. But then when you get to the dirty work of the real world, you have edge cases and all these other problems, and so it takes a long time to get the long tail of the problem figured out. So right now, if you look at a lot of new technology as it's entering into the warehouse, they're at like 95, 98%, but a lot of our customers need 99% and above reliability. And I think that's where you see a lot of the roadblock. And we always, in the automation industry, eventually overcome that bar, but it takes longer than people expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that end, one of the things that I'm most interested to talk to you about is, we sort of see this divide in robotics sometimes, where we talk about task-oriented robotics that, oftentimes look like, kind of one arm mounted in a stationary place. And then, we have this exciting new branch that's developing, which is humanoids and, robots that have different form factors. And so, I'm curious from your vantage point, where are you seeing the use cases that, require a humanoid, or that where that humanoid form factor is adding a lot of significant extra value?
Yeah, I think that this is always a question, is like, why not use a specialized machine versus a general purpose machine? And where you see um, great opportunity for general purpose machines is when you may or may not have full 100% utilization, or you need a mix of mobility and manipulation at the same time. Because a lot of special purpose machinery ends up being either mobile or manipulation, and they have very high utilization, especially for manipulation tasks, in one fixed location. And where you see a lot of opportunity for humanoids is moving from station to station, solving that manipulation problem at each of those stations. where they may not have 100% utilization of the machine if they were to put a specialized machine there. Because it really comes down to utilization and return on investment for customers.
And as I'm looking, at the demo behind us here, it looks like it's a robotic workstation, obviously, but it looks like, in many ways, a human work
Yeah,
cell.
yeah,
And so, the ability to operate in those kind of environments, it is clear to see why it's growing so quickly.
yeah.
Obviously, a major component of that is keeping these machines safe and,
Yes.
working collaboratively with people. So I know you all at Agility are leading the charge on safety. If you could tell me a little bit about that work and what some of the advancements that you guys have made there are.
Yeah. So as recently as last week, a new standard has passed ballot in the ISO realm, ISO 25875. It's a new standard that covers dynamically stable industrial mobile robots, Digit, and robots like Digit. And this is pretty exciting for the industry because a lot of the standards today that cover the humanoid market, they also cover other industrial mobile robots. And the challenge is there that those standards are a little silent on what to do with the dynamically stable part of the robot. And so this standard will help provide more guidance and clarify requirements for our types of robots. And this is a big deal because 10 years ago, we had the same problem in the AMR industry, and we didn't start the standards effort until a little bit after these robots were getting deployed into the real world. And now we're getting kind of a head start where we're starting about the same time as robots getting into the real world. Yes, it's off by a year, but it's not off by 3 years. And also, ISO has done an important job of limiting the time that it can take to create a standard. So ISO has said that if you start a standard, it needs to be complete in 3 years. So that gives us a lot of hope and promise for getting these standards in place quickly to help the industry be successful.
And of course, that speed is all the more important as there's more interest in automation. It seems like now than ever before. Some of that being driven by kind of these overarching trends. From your perspective, how have you seen the impact of onshoring? And moving manufacturing bases around. In the industry overall.
Hmm. I think that that's a hard question to answer because, from my perspective, we've been talking as a country, let's say, or an industry about onshoring for the last 20 years, but there hasn't been much movement in the needle. Uh, and although automation will play a critical role if that occurs, I think that most of onshoring will be driven by tax incentives and other incentives for businesses. And those tax incentives could or could not be potentially majorly aligned with automation. And so it really depends on the public policy that gets created to enable onshoring.
Well, and in any event, it seems like this is very similar to what a manufacturing cell in the year 2060 or something like that might look like. Can you tell me a little bit about what we're seeing here and
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah, so to be fair, it's a little bit contrived because we have such a small space. But what we're trying to show is the versatility of the robot for one, going to the end of a station, say for line feeding, unloading an AMR, and and then walking to a next station. In this case, the next station is just happens to be the end of the flow rack, but normally what you would see is Digit going to another station down
Right.
the line. But this shows that Digit can load and unload an AMR and load and unload flow rack, and all from an AMR. And one of the other things that we're showing here is the integration with the AMR. So our Agility Arc platform, which is shown on the tablet there, actually interconnects with the Zebra platform and allows us to tell it to go to the next station and meet us there. And then the other thing that you'll see behind this robot doing this work is our autonomous charge docking. So our robots can manage their own state of charge, and connect and disconnect from their charge docks. And so there's 2 charge docks in the work cell showing that.
That's incredible. So let's zoom in on Digit specifically for just a second here. because it is a humanoid by all. It's got all the limbs there, right?
Yeah.
But it's got a form factor that's very unique.
Yeah.
The legs in particular strike me a little bit more like deer legs,
Yeah.
and so I'm so curious what the design process was like, and kind of what drove that form factor.
Yeah. So a lot of the form factor of the robot is driven by the physics of the legs. So one of the things that we did with the leg design is make them more easy to model, so that we can and more force transparent, so that we can ensure that the walking of the robot is very smooth and dynamic, and we can deal with changes in the environment or like on the floor more easily. So say there was something left on the ground and we step on it.
Mm.
The leg design is inherently a little more compliant and can more easily deal with those perturbations.
And now, what about the end effectors on the arms there? That's certainly looks like a specialty use case to pick up those pins. How do you go about figuring out what kind of hands you should put on the each digit?
Yeah, so today this is our V4 robot, and we started by making our own industrialized gripper that handled the totes. But going forward, we're going to start partnering with other end effector manufacturers and using the large variety of end effectors that are out there in the industry for placing onto our robot. So the next generation of the robot, the hands will be swappable, and Digit will be able to change out its hands for different applications.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was such a pleasure speaking with you. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else you'd like to share for our listeners as we're watching what might be the future of
Yeah.
kind of automation?
I guess the one thing that we would like to share, and we want more people to get involved in the creation of the safety standard. And so if people are interested in the new safety standard that's being created in the ISO realm, they can reach out to Carol Franklin at the A3 Association to get engaged and join the standard with us and help making the future of safety for humanoid robots.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for your time.
Yeah,
I really
thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.